right. Hello.
We're here with a purpose today.
Hmm.
We're here to onboard Benjamin to the Open Memetics, whatever it is we want to call it, Institute, Network, Egregore, Movement, etc.
Awesome.
Benjamin, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing great. This is the first time I've been onboarded in such a formal way to an institute network egregore movement that doesn't have a formal name yet.
Yeah. So I mean, the funny enough, this is actually like the second time we're this is the second onboarding I guess I've done. Um but I feel actually I'm actually less prepared for this one. But we'll see how it goes. But the first one was on Twitter space with Marianne and we had, can I find it? Oh yeah, it's actually here. We had a board that we went through that had uh a lot going on, which we can maybe use um reference here. And actually, yeah, let me paste the link to these so you guys can have this and add to it. So the two I'm looking at. Um, yeah, and I guess the reason I was like I've said is unprepared, because I've spent most of the day like in a different headspace where I was writing this thing about what ORI is, and that's that's a very different institute slash network slash egregore slash movement. Um, it's already hard to define that. Um, it's so switching. But I think I can switch. And actually, maybe a good segue is to actually answer the question. Um, what is the relationship of ORI and the open memetics stuff? Because Benjamin, is this clear to you, or do you want to explain it, or do you want me to explain it? Like, do you already know this answer to
Don't
this?
know the answer to this. Let me think about it for a second though before you tell me, because that might help me at least notice also if there's a difference between what
Yeah.
you're saying and what I think. Um, okay, 1 second. Okay. I'm trying to find a place where the ORI is defined.
Oh yeah, you're not gonna find that.
I
Good luck with that.
saw the
Um,
onboarding, and the
I
onboarding thing made sense. I remember reading about it, but it was essentially
oh,
about
if the onboarding,
surfacing on
yeah,
like good research was basically the idea in my mind.
right. So actually, no, um, that's a good entry point. So like, basically, I think Open Medics is a prereq for ORI. So I think I actually I had this somewhere else in a different board where I say like, here's the plan and like Open Research Institute and the movement. I actually like this word like egregore slash movement slash network. Because it is this abstract thing. But the open research stuff, one of the things you want if you want to have a functional, open um, research culture is you can't have epistemic noise or epistemic warfare um, in there. So it's like if we ever get to the RI kind of vision or goal, if it ever works, I will automatically have like solved this. Um, so but if you solve this, it has a lot of other uses that aren't just research. So does this make sense? If I were to explain this to my mom, and this is actually nice. Can I zoom out here and say the open mimetic stuff is for like uh I'm just gonna not gonna define it yet, but what I call like clean information propagation. Okay. And the the open research stuff is about uh surfacing and rewarding novel breakthroughs and solutions.
So I want to do that in my own words, and then I have a question.
Sure.
I would say that if I understand correctly, if you do open memetics, then the Open Research Institute as an institute becomes superfluous because there's no need to surface and reward novel breakthroughs and solutions because you already have clean information propagation. Is that correct?
Um, no, not quite. And let me try to explain why I think not quite. Because I think of it. Let me use the colors here. I think open medics is here, and open research not quite. I think it's something you would do on top of it. So like I guess one other way to think about it is like if you have a clean information environment, once you have that, one thing you can do is have an open research world. Another thing you could do is I don't know. Politics also looks different. Like there's a lot of things that change um that are pre like if you manage to have a clean information propagation, what can you do with that? And I mean, one of the things you can do with that I'm interested in is the research. But I see why you're saying it shouldn't it be superfluous by definition of like what a clean information propagation looks like. I guess it's not. I guess it's not superfluous because yeah, I'll tell you this. It's like okay, imagine if hear me out. Let's say we figure out how to do this, how to have a clear information, protocol, and like so if there exists a way. Okay, let's say that there exists a way to uh push information or to gather information that will have the right properties that you want. You still have to get people to do that, and that still has to grow. Um, I guess like
It's either rewarding, maybe, like you're talking about incentives of rewarding novel breakthroughs and solutions, but the surfacing part should feel like it's at least much easier.
yeah, like I guess I think of like open medics there's going to be I see this applies to all of these things. Like there's a phase where you figure out the answer, and then there's a phase where you're like deploying it and maintaining it.
Mm.
Um, it's like it's like figuring out the idea of civilization, how to make civilization work, and going from no civilization to a civilization, and then there's maintaining civilization forever.
Have you
So
guys ever put together a tent? It's like
yeah,
trying to stand up, one side of it and the other side and like spread the tent over it. It's like I just visualize this as like, oh, we're trying to do this part of the process over here and then run over here and do this part and like eventually people will see it and start participating in it and it'll be self-stable. But right now, I think it's kind of in the phase where it's like, well, people are doing it. It's not uh, as publicly legible as I think it will be ultimately.
I have a bit of a better grasp, not a full one. That
well,
might
I mean,
help
I,
a
I
little
keep
bit.
trying to say it in like a simple words, which is like one of the things that um would propagate is like research, but that's not the only thing. It is a harder question, I realized. So I appreciate you asking.
Okay, I'm glad. So maybe my next question will help because my next question was kind of an assumption here, and now I'm realizing that it sounds, well, I would say clean information propagation is like to what scale? So is the Open Memetics Institute aiming at this becoming a universal factor of all communication in everywhere in the world. Let's take it to the extreme where like even between spouses, in the dark nights in their room, like clean information propagation, like what is the limit here of the scale of clean information propagation, um, both regarding domains, regarding which populations inside those domains, and um, maybe also what is the cleanliness kind of level that's being aimed at.
I think this is a good question. Like, what is the scope? It's like, what about my friends? Like, are we talking about information propagation within my friends? And actually, here's the funny thing. Okay, I have an answer to this, and it is kind of grandiose, but also it's not that crazy because the correct answer is the following. It's all the information networks that matter to you. I actually think this is a big point. A lot of the open stuff I think is like centered around you the viewer, you the consumer, you the person interacting with the open um
So can I then
thing.
reframe what I hear you saying? Because the you here
Yeah.
I want to articulate. It's something more like the Open Memetics Institute is a resource for anybody who wants to clean up a specific scope of
Yes.
information.
Yes. Yeah, let me write this down. It's great. You said you said a resource
Yeah.
for anyone who wants to clean up a specific. Yeah, God, this is great. This is why I'm really glad to have you here. This is perfect. A specific scope. Wait, did I get it? What's missing
Yeah,
there?
this is good. I think that there's a few other things that OMI is going to do besides that. Like it's also going to be it's going to
But
also have to market itself. So it's also going to be an educational thing about why you might want to clean up any scope. I can like that's going to be part of the marketing,
well,
I imagine.
but I think there's sort of this like there's I think of it as like you have a North Star and then everything and then there's a lot of things you do that sort of help that, but
Yeah.
we have to be able to have a clear like what for what purpose is this thing exists, and I think this is one of the most succinct concise articulations of it. Okay, so actually now that you've said that,
This
I
answers
can
the
explain
ORI
to you.
question, by the way, also very easily.
Wait, hold on.
Okay.
I'm gonna go here next, but then like why I'm obsessed with teaching people this question. But then can you tell me, or wait, can I tell you what I think you're gonna say?
Yeah,
Um,
that's more fun. I like that.
so if this is OMI, then I think the ORI is implementing OMI like protocols, what is learned in there to a specific category of networks, which is like science.
Yeah.
Is that yeah. So actually that's sort of why I see them as separate in some ways, because like there's a lot of things that like OMI is gonna be doing that aren't useful, and also a lot of things ORI like ORI just needs this stuff to work. Yeah. It's like
What's
ORI is almost a
interesting is that
client.
I feel like that flips your Venn diagram, by the way, though, where
So it's
OMI
not, yeah, it's not, it should,
is more encompassing. ORI is part of the OMI. And then what that kind of means is that typically everything that ORI does is going to be useful information because it's going to be the application, the engineering of OMI science.
wait, so you're saying are they just flipped?
Yeah. And so that it's reasonable that everything that ORI does will be useful for OMI, but not the inverse, because it might be domain specific. But everything that ORI does is an application of the science of OMI.
I can see that. And actually, OMI has this weird property. Well, okay, this let me tell you this, and I'll explain. I wanna. Just a reminder, I want to get
I feel like it's
these
going to be
days.
terrible onboarding for people who don't already know so much.
No, I know, but but see, this is honestly this is part of the challenge. But I've sort of I've concluded for now what I'm doing is I'm just getting humans onboarded, individual minds onboarded, and those people are gonna help me onboard. They're there. I just need enough people to understand. Oh, we need enough people to have the same shared understanding, and from there, because otherwise I can't be the only one holding this thing because it's too fuzzy in my head. Okay.
So you're going to say why you
Oh,
like telling people what an egregore is.
well, I want to say that, but before that, one quick thing is this is one of the things I love. I love so much about the Open Memetics game is that it's like it's almost like by definition everyone can participate and everything is relevant. Um, because we're like the everyone can participate because the whole point is if you're a human who who can hear who's even aware of this, then you're someone who like everyone is a node in the network of information propagation.
I'm not so sure the claim is true that everything is relevant.
Okay, so then everything is relevant is because I mean, I guess I would say it's because I think of the landscape as a set of information pipes, and so um, I mean, here's another way to put it about it. It's like anything that goes through the information pipes does something. Um, like it's sort of like either good or it's junk. I don't know. I mean, there's a sense in which like if we're studying information pipes, so anything going through the information pipes um, is
I don't know. I'm thinking of counterexamples,
mm,
and I'm not so and I think that the maybe the word relevant is maybe what's a little bit misleading. Like maybe it's kind of like if you're like saying when you're learning physics, everything is relevant. It's true, everything is relevant, but not everything is interesting, novel, and
yeah, yeah,
useful enough
yeah.
to teach you about how to create a general paradigm or scheme to kind of understand
I actually no, I agree with that, but I guess I'm actually saying something even just simpler, which is that I it's like I feel like my model with open memetics in general, gives me a sense of I can tell what is like I can make that judgment because I have this model that mm,
So in my mind, I would say something. I would reframe it like open memetics game. Everyone can participate, and as you become more skillful, you understand what is relevant. Is kind of like the way I think about it more, which is much less elegant, but I think like
yeah,
more accurate. Like you know, everyone can participate because it's kind of like the
right.
open memetics game is like knowledge. Everyone can participate in knowledge, but as you become more skillful, you start becoming much more discriminatory about how you relate to it, and you no longer
Yeah.
treat certain
Well,
things as valuable or positive knowledge.
I, I think what he's going for with that, and correct me if I'm wrong, is we want people to participate. And so we don't want people to think before they participate, oh, what I'm thinking is irrelevant or my opinion doesn't matter here. And the way that I would square both of these is even if your opinion doesn't matter, like you need to express it so that it can be updated so that you can get like you just said, like you'll start to learn what is relevant.
Right.
So I think there
I
might
think
be a
that's
way to
actually
phrase it. Go
but
ahead.
I think that make that I think we're all on the same page. I think like all what I really was trying to say is like again if you're like
Let's
if
say
let's say your goal
everyone
is
is relevant.
actually they're two different things. Like the reason why everyone can participate is because everyone is a node. Okay,
Mhm.
we all kind of get that.
I'm a
Now,
person.
like the no, you're a node. In
Okay.
this scheme.
Yeah.
Um, but it's the same thing. Like Ben, does this make sense? Like
Yeah,
if you're working on your epistemology, then quote unquote everything is relevant in the sense that any change you make to your epistemology changes how you consume anything.
yeah,
Um,
yes,
that doesn't actually mean that it doesn't actually mean that most things will help you improve your epistemology. In fact, most things don't. But it's the other way around. It's basically I'm basically trying to justify this. Like why is OMI
yeah. I would just change. I
subsuming
would
the other
just.
stuff? Yeah.
I would just change the language of every piece of information you consume to every informational transaction, because it's more of an activity and less about like the artifact. And it can also, and it's equally true when you are transmitting information is a place to practice epistemology as when you're consuming it.
I think that sounds right, and I think that's why the so like anatomy of internet argument. So we can get to that a little later. Um, okay, zooming out. So I think the big breakthrough we got so far is this this clear what is OMI for, and it's this. This is how like I basically need to be able to answer like how do we know we're doing a good job? What is the job we're doing? And I think this is it. Um, So resource for inner hosts to clean up a specific scope, and scope here means like a specific set of information environments. Okay, so then why? So you know how like there's a concepts page in the GitHub where, and like we've written a few things in there, and there's a few people who have open PRs, but have not like really reviewed them or accepted them yet, and it's because I feel like I need to make this a bit clearer, like because people are putting a lot of different things in there because and it's not clear which is relevant or which is important. Um, and I have in like intuitively this sense of like what is important, but it's not clear to others. Um, but I think this is it. Okay, so then let me explain to you this here. So the first step in order to fulfill this function is for people to understand in the first place what information environments are they inside. Where do they get their information to begin with?
Wait, the first step for what? The
So
first step for what?
to I think to accomplish this goal, to in order for us to create or become a resource for people to clean up the information networks that they're a part of, that they're or
Don't
within their control.
understand. So let's say I'm a person who wants to clean up. I'm not Ben. I'm somebody else. I found this definition. OMI is research for anyone who wants to clean up a specific scope. I understand broadly, fuzzily, what that means about cleaning up a specific scope is. That's to take information, or to make it even easier, I'm a CEO of a company, and I realize that communication in my company sucks. That's all I know. And I'm like, someone's like, check out OMI. I'm like, okay, I come to OMI. And so then, what's the first step?
Okay, I mean, it's a good question. So, like, okay, so let me tell you why I think this is like the first step should be okay. Here's what happens. You walk into OMI and what I want to happen is that you find out is there already someone in there active in that network that you are in? Write this down. So like you want to find it's almost like find if there's already like I've used this metaphor before where like a medic weather station and find out if there's already a station, an OMI base station in your record. Does this make sense?
Yeah, I'm suspicious that
Because
I'm suspicious that this might not be the first step.
Hmm.
Because I'll tell you what my intuition of my first step was.
Okay.
My intuition was about having an individual understand themselves as a network and understanding what it means for themselves to have a clean, functioning network, which is another way of saying for somebody else to understand epistemology and how it pertains to them. So this way they can begin to even judge and understand what it means to clean up. Could just be you're assuming a higher step
Yeah.
before they even.
Well, well, well. Then this is good. Actually, so I'll sort of tell you because you know the anatomy of the infinite argument game is sort of one of my sort of pitches for how to scale this thing up. And like I'll tell you a weird thing, like because this game is about when you first kind of start this game is like you have the truth. It's already like assumed. And all you're missing is like how to propagate the truth. Now like you might actually like have terrible epistemology and everything you believe could be completely wrong. But you're kind of jumping to how to propagate. Okay. And I think that's fine because if you do it right, um, you basically will fail to propagate the thing if it's um, false things. Uh,
What?
hold on. Um, you'll get feedback and you'll actually end up. Never mind. Okay, hold on. If this is if you play the game right, which is like your if you talk to people inside your echo chamber, people already agree with you. Um,
Wait, do you mean playing the game by your rules, or if you just literally just try to propagate your own truth online, this will happen to you naturally already?
okay, hold on. This is a there's an important thing going on here in my head, which is you're right. If you just go around, if you have again, if you have a package of wrong beliefs that are like provably, let's say, false, and you just go around um, propagating them, you may never find out. You may spend the rest of your life convincing a lot of people, and you may never actually find out. I agree, but the point of what I'm saying is this game only works if everybody is playing. Like, there's an assumption. Okay, okay, cool, hold on. There's a root assumption I have, very root assumption, in all of my work, which is there are more good people trying trying to do good than there are. I think of it as think of like a community whiteboard that anybody can write anything on in a small town. And so you think like, wait, you shouldn't just leave that open because people can write, bad things on there. Um, but also anybody who sees something bad can like erase it and replace it with something. So if um if it's like if there's more bad than there is good, then it's like you've already lost. I don't know. Where is this? Is this landing?
Yeah, well, is it landing? In the sense of like, do I agree? No. Do I understand? Partially. Do I understand the relationship between this and the first steps? That's for sure not. Because this started, we got here with what would the first step be in somebody meeting the open medic
Oh
institute?
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
said
yeah.
taking them to a base, and I was like, no, we should help them clean up their own epistemological norm.
Well,
That's my
I mean,
assumption, at least.
I'll
I haven't
sort of
thought of
tell
that
you.
so much.
Okay, let me now say it in one sentence, I guess. Like the point is like you go to OMI and you say, guys, I found propaganda. I found evil people. I have a report to make. I need to report you guys because I found someone spreading evil lies. Okay. Now, that person you found, okay, this is it. This is why I want everyone in the world to participate in OMI right now. Still. So let's say, and again, we can sort of think of like, my mom, steeped in propaganda, uh, comes to OMI to write, to file a complaint. Um, but what she's found is actually something true. And she's like, that's propaganda. Okay. Now OMI looks at that, and now it's a report about. You see what it's a report about? It's a report about people's epistemology. It's like um now um I have like now this is a problem to be solved. Like now OMI will take that and we will open a bug report. Okay? It just won't be the bug report that my mom wrote. It will be, hey, we seem to have there's a truth here that like her coming in with this tells me something about the information environment that she's in, which is one where true things, the specific truths are seen as their propaganda. Okay, so now I can interview her and be like, well, why do you think this is not true? And now I'm here to like inspect her world model. Like what? Like because this is a bug, right? Okay, okay. Like the fact that this happened shows me that we're not in a clean information environment. Like I found somewhere where there's a bug in the information environment. Right? By definition, any place where the truths are are facing resistance or unable to surface, that's what we would call a.
Hmm.
It's not not a clean.
I'm
So
with
you're
you so
basically
far.
saying whatever produced her world model, there was something
Yes. Yes.
conflicting or messed up.
Yes. Um,
You're gonna find a lot of
and
those.
so actually that's actually it. It's like everybody starts like no like it's sort of like nobody actually knows how do you even know the health of your information environment? Like it's like
Hmm.
so like it's like you sort of have to assume their epistemology is good. Or like I mean everybody by default assumes unless they're like actively thinking about it. The default normie assumes that they have a way to find truth through they trust their sources, whatever they trust. So basically, everybody coming to ORI to OMI to open a bug report is one of two cases: is either themselves a victim of propaganda, or they have effectively found propaganda and they need help um, fighting it.
So
So either way, they come here and it's useful. Yeah.
okay, so here's how I understand part of how OMI works. And this is part of my original question, which is like what is the scope of like your user base, kind of. And the answer I thought I had was something like it's anybody who wants to clean up their environment, their informational environment. So that to me sounds like there's already a pretty high bar of entry. Because as somebody who has some sort of conceptual understanding of what communication is, what information is, and they don't blame it on agents, they have some sort of systemic sense. So the example of the CEO comes in, it's like, my company's culture sucks. They have this concept of a culture. They're already not saying Jack is just a terrible communicator. They're like, no, something here is going wrong because I have 10 people who I hired and they're bad communicators, but they don't seem to be bad people. They seem to be, people who should be able to communicate.
Right.
So the entry is like very high. The example that you gave is like a very low level entry. It's like somebody just saying somebody said
Right.
something that was a lie. And for that, you're essentially saying like Jack is lying again. And you have no concept of what
So you're
information
right.
are.
You're actually right here. The bar of entry to OMI is very high, and yet I have this ambition to like reach everyone. So what's going on there? I think to resolve this paradox, realistically, it's not my mom that's coming here. It's me. It's someone in her network with it's like all I want. I said one of each here because it's like I want someone memetically literate in every information network. That's what I want.
Okay, that seems reasonable. But then okay,
One person. Yeah.
so then what this means is that this type of person who comes in with a structural understanding that communication is a systemic thing, even if they don't have language, right? They just say my company culture sucks. They don't have like the systems view. They think it's all peer pressure, but they don't know what it is exactly, or they just recognize that there's a problem that's not to be laid at the feet of a node, but of the way the network is constructed. So they're like, I'm not going to fire Jack because he didn't tell me about the bug in the product because I think that this is a problem that's going to repeat itself. That's like the minimum level of understanding, conceptual understanding.
Yes.
Um, so for that type of person, it feels like if that's like the bar, it feels like the next, again, this is just my assumption, the next step is going to be, well, you have to understand um, in your you have to understand what a human node is, kind of. Like, how does a human node function generally with regard to information, which is epistemology, essentially. Like, can you for yourself um, distinguish between when you understand something versus when you're delegating belief to a trustworthy person? Do you and yourself know how you discriminate between who is trustworthy and who is not trustworthy? Even if you can't articulate it necessarily, do you understand the process of how people typically do this? Like, these seem to be kind of like the first steps, which is focusing on a node and then saying, okay, how do these things kind of amplify into an egregore or a network? Which is different than what you said, which I
So
can't see
if I
anymore. But it was something like, um, what was it that you wrote?
figure out if there's a base station. Wait, you're muted now.
Sorry, that seems like that's not like it's a different kind of first step. Like it's kind of like, can you find a
Yes.
mentor in the system, but not actually something to do with memetics directly.
Yeah, let me think about that because and it's possible I'm sort of conflating two separate things here because there's one level of this is like a consumer of information in a network, and one level is someone who's actively shaping an information network and is not getting the results they want. And that, the person shaping a network is at a very different level than the person who just exists in a network.
I find myself not to be either of those, like directly. It's more like I'm trying simply to, as a participant, um, for myself and for those directly around me, be of the highest caliber that I could regarding being myself clean and
Well,
being useful for others in cleaning them in a way that is useful for them, which is not really either of those. Like, I don't have power. I can't design the system, or very minimally, nor am I simply an unaware participator in a system, like the example of your mom's deep in propaganda.
so, but I think part of the point is that like, okay, if there's sort of one um principle we're spreading here is that like being a steward of an information environment is a role that you can have, and um like because you do have power within, because you said like you want to be sort of the highest caliber of like a clean environment in for the people around you, right? So like when again your friends or your mom or someone on the internet, like you are a participant in a lot of you are a part. I mean, yeah, you are a participant in the networks that you're in, and you don't, again, you're not like an influencer. You're not shaping these um environments. But I guess the reason you care about this stuff is because like, okay, listen, hear me out. Like you can see you can be you're someone who in this scheme would be reporting bugs. You can spot bugs.
That sounds terribly boring to me, by the way. Like I would much rather be
So,
like
but
the
here's the
person
fun
getting
part.
all the bugs and being like, okay, here's the framework for figuring it out. That sounds a lot more
Well,
exciting.
but that's well, that's actually that's also why you're here also, which is because you had a Substack note where you were like, I think this was from a few weeks ago now, but you were like, you found yourself, in the vicinity of these like really popular, notable people, just on the internet, just by like posting. Right? Do you remember
Yeah,
what I'm talking about?
I found like you and like a bunch of other people and just like, how did I find all the people who are always ahead of the curve? It's weird. Like, how did this happen? Like, this doesn't make
And
sense. I'm not that online.
and I think the answer, my belief is that it's because there's a lot of basically most of the bottlenecks in the world right now are because of like co- competence is the bottleneck, competent people. Um, so um, and this is somewhat related to the CEO and the janitor, I guess. But the point is that in the right information environment, in a clean information environment, um, you should be like you can go be going about your life like doing actually useful things, and then you notice there's a problem, and then you can sort of propose a solution, and then put it out there, and then people with the power to shape the information environment, who often aren't thinking, like don't have the peace of mind to think about like the theory of it, because it takes a lot of work to like be surfing. I think we talked about this before. To maintain a big voice in a large information network is like a full-time job. Um, so like I think it's pretty simple. Like there like this is this open memetics thing. One way to think about it is all the people who are thinking about the bugs in the information networks and have solution, can we all get together, and we all have one specific perspective on the information networks we're in. But if we can see a problem in all of them, if okay, look, if we can see, okay, like imagine this, imagine I have a solution for a specific protocol or a thing we can do, and it's proposed, and a bunch of people are like, yeah, this is great, let's deploy it. Before we get our like, let's say, a network of 100 influencers to start actively changing culture, I need like almost a committee of these people who will look at that and be like, wait, hold on. If you roll this out in this culture, in this information network where I exist in, this is going to wreak havoc, and here's why. And we're like, oh shit, thanks for spotting that. Do you see like the like because if this open medics things works, it can have this enormous like cultural engineering is dangerous for this reason.
Wait, this is
Um,
totally new. This has never been mentioned before as as a facet of OMI, which is until now, it's been a resource that you can go to. Now you're describing it as an agent of changing the network,
so
and but not an agent the way that
well,
like just by the fact of defining things or changing things, but it sounded like rolling out influencers, which is like it's like putting them on the Hasbara call, where
so
it's like, all right, guys, here's $500. Here's the message you gotta send.
Um, no, this is actually funny because but I sort of see it as like an inevitable or like obvious consequence, but it's funny I hadn't mentioned it. But okay, think of what happens. Let me justify it. Um, if we go back to this, and let's say OMI has figured out, it's like, hey, if you have problem X in your information environment, do Y. Y solves problem X. So that's all we say. We have a website where we say if you have problem X, do thing Y. Okay. Now, if we're actually correct, then people will apply Y in their information network, which means that is active influence, I guess. It's bottom up and it's decentralized. Um, but it means like when we publish a new solution to something, it's like again like a bug fix, and then people overnight read it and they implement it as far as OMI has a reach, and if we are successful in the one of what do we say, one of each, then it should spread actually very quickly.
I'm down with that. That sounds very reasonable, and I understand why before you would publish something then publicly, it would make sense to first discern whether it would be a good thing or a bad thing to publish. Which, by the way, changes something important because it means Open Memetic Institute means something more like we're open once we've published things. Our research is actually not
Yeah.
open at all.
Oh yeah. Okay, this is big. This is this is
It's like
important.
Open AI.
Open. Um, See, the funny thing is like one of the questions of open memetics is like, is it possible to do open memetics? And I think the short answer is um I actually think, I mean, really there's a subset. I see, hold on, I had a tweet. Let me show it to you. I think
By the way, it's
it's
interesting. My hunch is that it is possible. Um,
well, let me tell you what's going on here. It's let me paste this in a sec. So where is it? There we go. Um,
yeah, but
I
I
think,
understand this. But wait. I want to. Can I jump in? Can I interrupt you?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so I understand this, but I think that we said I had come to an understanding of two factors, which is why you don't have to worry too much. But maybe you can tell me why I'm wrong. One is because um, at least large actors already know everything that we're going to find out, and so we're not influencing large actors. What we're really doing is like the worst we're doing is distributing powerful weapons to the masses. But then the second aspect why I'm not so concerned is the caliber of the type of person you would have to be in order to understand this might be enough of a general filter so that the good outweighs the bad. I can't prove that one because it's possible that there are like very smart psychopaths. I mean, there are. It's not a question. But the question is the harm of giving this information greater than the good by giving it to a much larger group of people who, by the fact that they can understand this, require a certain level for a typical human of integrity that it will be a generally positive factor. Does that make sense the way I articulated the second response?
Yes, yes. It's. I mean, but see, this is something I think like. This is a thing that, like I think about the bottom floor, the threshold, of um like to whom is this legible? Um, because it takes effort to make things something legible anyway. So it's like, but by the nature of what we're talking about, um, like there's already like a natural filter.
It's a really big filter, by the way. You have to have somebody who is able to really. This is why I was going back to the first thing. At least this is how I see it. So maybe this is from my perspective. I come in from here. But in order to understand the cleanliness and the distribution of information in a system, you have to have that internal kind of perspective on yourself to kind of see in yourself all of these things acting. Like it requires this kind of like empathy where it's like I have to understand what's like a I have to understand what functions as propaganda for me in order to understand how propaganda works in the system. Like I have to realize how I'm influenced by subtle messages, and
Yeah.
and that kind
Well,
of like introspectiveness in my mind at least
no,
should be
well,
like a really strong filter against bad actors. But maybe I'm wrong.
let me tell you a kind of counter example that I think is like a concrete case potentially. Like I think in general, like here. like imagine there's a new influencer who like okay like imagine a lot of what the open medics sort of movement does is um we like we teach imagine we just teach everyone that you got to work on your epistemology. That becomes a buzzword. Like imagine epistemology becomes a buzzword, and we normalize teaching epistemology.
There's a lot to
That's
unpack
something
there,
that you
but yeah,
can
I'm with
do.
you. I'm with you for now, but I have a feeling that already now we've already diverged. But we can continue.
Well, but I think sort of it's a bit. I think what you're maybe countering here is like you're not successful in actually explaining this to level people understand, but people sort of don't the people don't have a nuanced understanding of what this even means, but they're excited about people who tell them how to think, essentially.
Which is actually a sign of like poor epistemology, right?
Yeah, yeah, but that's this. It doesn't matter because then you get like if it becomes this buzzword where this is sort of something we could do that's bad, um, because it would be okay. Imagine this because this can apply to again someone like again to keep picking on my mom. I don't think my mom's epistemology is actually that bad, but she's a good
Well,
sort of
let's do your
hypothetical.
aunt instead,
Yeah, let's say my
or
aunt,
my aunt. It's
um,
fine.
a hypothetical aunt, um, is now like, oh, hey, I'm working on my epistemology, and like that would be crazy. It's like, what do you mean, auntie? What are you doing? And she's like, well, I found this TikToker who tells me which sources I should listen to and which keywords when I hear them that means they're lying to me. And I'm like, that's terrible. That's not gonna help. And she's like, oh, they said you would say that. And I'm like, okay, now I'm really scared. This is terrible. This so
Medic
um
warfare,
yeah,
epistemological warfare.
so and what we've done here is we've made it worse because it's like we've low like it's already like people already have like an ick. There's a natural ick to being told how to think. If we sort of like some good people going around like no, find people who are smarter than you and let them teach you the epistemology because you'll be better, and that's all they hear. That's bad. Because it can lead to essentially more open
Okay,
exploits,
but
more
wait,
dumb
this
exploits, you
counterexample
know.
is weird to me because if I understand, if OMI is completely open, are you saying that somebody might come and start doing these things? Is that what you're saying? Because like, who is this
Um,
person?
no, so what's okay, so this is
This sounds more like if OMI is completely incompetent in what they're doing and doesn't understand human psychology at all. It's like we're gonna teach everybody how to think right. That sounds like this like nightmare
uh
scenario.
yeah, hold on. What how do we get here? The um is a funny scenario. Um I think this is the I think this is just talking about this natural filter and where where it is like I don't know, I guess what I'm doing is responding to people who have like who have asked me like why are you pushing open medics like beyond uh like trying to make it more popular um
Like I can answer that question about why I'm interested in that.
but yeah, I think you're like I think the limit of what you would push it beyond like you wouldn't which was the post you made on Substack recently. It's like you wouldn't push it beyond people who can handle that information, basically.
But that's because not because it would harm them. Well, maybe it would, but that's not the usefulness of the Open Memetics Institute and of having this research open is because it makes it easier for people who genuinely want to understand epistemics better to do so in their information environment, and people who do so, not right away, but will, if they are somewhat committed to it and continue to do it, they'll be really good at clearing up their proximity,
Mm.
even if they're not bringing other people to the same level of Open Memetics Institute, just by the value of the way that they interact in conversations. And I can give a good example of this from my daily life, which I think that I was having an argument with somebody who's bringing a certain point, and I found the information irrelevant to the argument. And I'm even on his side. Just by pointing out to him, hey, what you're pointing out, like, this is an emotional appeal, but it actually hasn't added any new information to the conversation. This is essentially me, ideally being knowing who my audience member was, like who I was interacting with. I knew that they would be able to understand that, and because I've been practicing trying to communicate these kinds of things, I got much better at it. Because it used to be more just like this is stupid, and now it's more like, no, I see why you're bringing that, but here's why it's irrelevant, and how that works. Um, and then I get better at it, and I think that I'm a positive influence on my interlocutor. And I have not brought them to the level that they can now be part of Open Medicine
Right,
Institute. Like that's not. I don't even have that
right.
aspiration. And I think that's going to be a natural thing that happens to almost everybody who interacts this
Well,
seriously.
I mean, hold on. I guess I can say it a different way, which is that part of this research, part of what we're doing here is it is figuring out um what is effective in changing minds, and because the part of how we're doing that is we're mapping people's epistemologies. It's like how what do people trust? What do they know to be true? Why are they like when I say stuff like I want to figure out why are people resisting this thing that is true. In order to do that, I sort of uncover their epistemology and I map it out and I document it. And I know it's true because I can test it. I figure out how to reframe this same thing, and now they accept it because I figured out why I was triggering the defenses. So I sort of like honestly, it is a manipulation
If you
technique.
can figure out why it's impossible,
What's
you
that?
might figure out like, oh, the current state,
Oh
like
yeah,
there's just
sure,
no way to convince them. That wouldn't be
sure,
like
sure.
fruitful.
Well, actually, and then but then you can sort of you can figure out like you know how in math you like either prove the thing or demonstrate why it's impossible. It'd be the same thing here. Like if because it's not just that it's difficult. You're like here's why it cannot be done. But what would need to change in order for it to be doable? Uh, you should be able to sort of articulate that. Um, okay, so I think like there's a like even if we accept this, the bad actors already know how what people trust and how to make people accept things. They already know all that. Um, the bad actors aren't, you know, the bad actors themselves aren't prepared for there being a lot more um live players, I guess. Um, mm, yeah,
So sucks for
okay, like
them.
okay, let me well, well um I'll, I guess let me tell you this, and this could also be like a fake fear. It's not real, but um, if you make it's not obvious to me that it's safe to make people less manipulable. because without understanding what's happening, what's the shape of the current landscape, because um
Makes sense to me.
Please explain.
like there's like imagine there's already like each government is sort of each there's all the whatever players there are, they're all sort of like actively doing this like cultural geoengineering sort of thing on the populations. Now if they suddenly lose their ability to have whatever level of control they currently have, um, what happens next? Um, like yeah, I
But
can,
wait.
yeah.
But I think there's an important caveat here, which is the reason they've lost this control is because the people are demanding better epistemic norms. It's not that they're losing control because people are shutting their ears. It's because people are being more critical with the information they're receiving. And they're saying, you can't just show me, you can't just emotionally arouse me. You have to give me good reasons. That's why I'm having a hard time understanding this being a problem.
I think it's
Like you're
the way that I hear this is it's a matter of timing and pacing. That like if you were to just take all of the deception and self-deception and manipulation out of the system, like it would grind to a halt and things would blow up. And so it's not a question of like in the limit, like where could we be in terms of non-manipulation, but if you remove a government's ability to run propaganda on its people, that could result in violent revolution overnight.
But again, you think that that's true even in the case where the reason that they're
like
failing is because the people are demanding higher norms?
well, I actually think it's a good like you're saying, Ben. I think the way you're seeing it is like if we if all we do is increase people's discernment, that should just be good because they now people sort of make the choice. It's not that people. Yeah, I think that's why you said it's not that they stop listening. It's that they have greater clarity,
Yeah, I will say that
and
something that
that
Joshua that you said that does resonate with me, but it's annoying that it resonates with me. But it's something like grinding to a halt, which is I can imagine a scenario where people have enough discernment to realize that they are in fog and not enough of some of like the wisdom or type of grounding to be able to still function in that fog because they're still in
Mhm.
shock because they were used to having hallucinations.
Yeah, something like that.
So I can imagine
Like,
that. That would have to be damn fast, wouldn't it? Like,
I, good question. I don't know.
I'm like,
You want to find out?
yeah, like, I feel like we should aspire. I feel like if you hit that, like this is like the history
uh,
books will be like divided like
yeah.
before the epistemic revolution and after the epistemic revolution. If you have like that will be
Yeah.
divided. If you manage to do that, and I can't imagine that
Yeah,
happening. Like remember those 3 days where everyone was just like, "Wait, what do we do? Who knows?" But they have to really prove it.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like that would be um like utopian almost.
It would be one for
But
the record books, yes.
'cause I did have a tweet where I was like, and it did seem to resonate with people, where I was like, can we get a big picture of humanity, of what's going on? And I was like, I know it's safe to write it down, but can we like how fuzzy do we have to make it for it to be like what's the clearest picture we can have of humanity? And by that I meant, like the whole, like state of supply chains and the economy and just how safe like in some ways like think of civilization as as a boat and like the odds of it sinking or the dangers that are in front of it, and you can see why this I don't know, I mean even in a company, like this level of clarity, I think there's a sense of like there being a valley here. Like, can you give every employee this level of clarity on the functioning and health of the ship? Can you give every member of the family Same thing for the family. Um,
Okay, now I've become to understand, but this is a little bit different than what I. This depends. This is a little bit different than what I imagined originally of OMI. This is expanding its research scope a little bit, because if it's mainly about um, understanding information flows and how to clean them, that's a little different than um, maybe it's the same, but this is like publishing
I mean,
the information filth and
well, but here, but actually, but that's why. Hold on, I'll tell you why. Like, if we think of again, remember when I said problem X exists, solution Y, and we publish that. So, a concrete example could be like, oh, hey, we see this type of fraud in this industry or in many industries. So, therefore, here's a simple way that you can solve that, which is don't work for any company unless they can show you, and this should be like something that's simple to show if they're good faith. It doesn't hurt them, but only hurts them if they're bad faith. So that's actually a great solution for whatever fraud problem there exists in that industry. Problem is, uh, you can can we imagine a world where this makes, I don't know, Google fall apart overnight or something like that, or like I don't know, or like other companies like that where they are they don't like you see fraud, you recognize fraud, and you it's like a net positive if it is resolved, but if it sort of happens too fast,
no, I don't think
people
that.
people can't adapt.
So first of all, I don't think that it would ever happen because what you're talking like that's that you really have this right. So the situation where Google would stop functioning would be they can no longer hire any new employees. Many of their own employees heard about this, start applying the test to Google, and they can't show X, Y, Z. And then
Right,
Google or some CEO who's a bad actor, instead of trying to resolve it, doubles down, right? Because he could solve the problem somehow. And if you
right,
can't solve it, then that means that you're maybe accelerating the destruction of Google, but you're not really causing it in any way.
right. But that's what I meant. Like long term, it's actually good because it's sort of like this fraud was happening, and you're giving people a way to test for the fraud, and so the bad thing was already happening. Like it's not.
Well, I can imagine
Uh,
this being bad if, for example, your test isn't good, but it seems good. Like
that's the point. The point
that's
like
the big
that's I guess that's
problem.
what I want to clarify. Like if like that would be like us fucking up, and like in principle we that's in our control to not
Well,
to do better.
yeah, no, but that I can
The
imagine that I
what
can imagine that being like a real problem where you do research, you come to a conclusion, and everything is open until people see it and they use it, and they themselves don't understand why it doesn't work. They understand why it does work. Um, but then what,
you're
nobody
right,
can
and
explain it and
that's
solve it? That would be weird. I guess it could happen.
no. Well, I
It's
mean,
kind of like where's God if
yeah,
you can't see him? And it's like, well, that works for a lot of people maybe. But then if you ask anybody who's a little bit more is like, what would you want to see? It's like, oh crap, that's not actually such a good question. Um, and then it's like, okay, we gotta do a
those
new
are
one.
there's like an easy problem and a hard problem. Like the easy one is like, what if the test is bad? I'm like, okay, so that's a no, that's knowable, and like we can sort of test for that, etc. The difficult one that I don't know the answer to is, what if the test is perfect? Like the test is perfect. It is very does not hurt the good. It only hurts people who do this one specific type of fraud. Now, now I'm asking, I don't know the answer, but I do wonder, is there any bad thing that can happen from publishing this? Um, because if the answer is no, then we could full steam ahead. But if we still have to be careful even in this ideal case, um,
Well,
then it's more
yeah,
complicated.
I think that the answer is that yes, there are situations where it would be bad, where it would be this company is actually doing some sort of fraud, but they're a net positive because they're doing a lot of other things also. And or you're only another example might be this company is actually doing fraud and they're a net negative, but if you destroy them, there's another company doing the type of fraud that we don't know how to identify yet, even worse.
Yeah.
And these are both problems. But
So
that
this
would
is,
mean
I
that
think
you
this,
shouldn't have said something like "Don't work for a company unless they do show you X, Y, Z." You should have just written, "If a company's doing X, Y, Z, they're committing fraud, and you should maybe still work for them." Like something like that. Seems like the imperative
I
here
mean,
is framed wrong.
well, in theory, and I think this is sort of how it already works in like a functional society. Like you at the bottom find this case of fraud, you you know, give it to the topmost person, the captain of the ship, and then he makes that decision because he can see what else is happening, and maybe he's like, oh yeah, I'm already aware of this fraud, but it's fine right now.
Good fraud.
Um, or like
Fraud. It's totally good fraud. Don't worry about it. This is the
It's
best fraud. You've never
this
had
is
fraud this good before. It's so good.
temporary helpful fraud.
Yeah, it's like it's like the unicorn of fraud. It's like a rainbow and sparkly, shimmering fraud.
Aw.
um actually, but this is honestly why I was talking about base station and trust chain, but you have to trust like look like if you okay, I guess the situation I'm trying to avoid is let's say I'm an employee. It's like basically like you just don't see the trade-offs or necessary evils that are happening. Like let's say you're an employee who like realizes that there's some bad thing happening in this company, and you tell the CEO, and the CEO doesn't listen or tells you like it's not a problem, and you go to the journalists to whistleblow, and they publish it, and then the point is if you became the CEO and you had the power, you tried to fix it, you realize why it cannot be fixed right now without because there's other prereqs, there's other things that depend. Like it's like it's okay. You know what it's like? It's like you're trying to fix a house that has a bad foundation, and you're like, and people live in that house, and you really are like, no, we got to fix this foundation. Um, and so you gotta, but this like so sometimes fixing the thing requires like it's gonna cause other problems, and you're not ready to deal with those problems. So okay, are we following here? Like I'm like
Yeah.
This is a weak argument for it not being public, in the sense that the legibility of such a proclamation is not going. This is not a legible actual proclamation, right? Even to say a company who has that can't show you X Y Z is committing a fraud, most likely, is like not a legible. Is not a product that I imagine OMI coming out with. I imagine it'll be something a lot more jargony and technical, even when written in its simplest language for its practitioners, which is something like, um, with this problem X jargony language, the janitor problem that cannot be resolved by doing this test would show that the company suffers from this defect. And even if somebody used AI to translate that, it would still be so far from an imperative that would be useful, um, for a vast majority of people. It's kind of again, this is a hunch more than a
but
proof. I can't prove that. I understand that might be wrong.
I mean I get but well but you're still thinking of like the I think a lot of this is bottlenecked on us thinking of the consumers of or OMI's products output as different. We have slightly different conceptions because I'm still thinking about like I do see field work, which again where I said bring out the influencers um, as an output, but maybe but you're not necessarily thinking of
Yeah, you didn't respond to me when I
that.
said, what is this troop of influencers? You didn't say like, oh yeah, we're gonna have a lot of influencers on the payroll. We're gonna have them, spread out epistemological good norm.
Because yeah, I don't know. I do feel like that's like an important part of it because a lot of like a lot of people who have big audiences on the internet basically get there by like saying good like they earn people's trust and they want to tell people things that help them um make sense like they're already like I don't know they're already you know what like it's like they are having an effect on people's epistemology. They are having an effect on people's worldviews. um like you know what like part of how I got here I guess is like me writing on the internet and growing a big audience and realizing that a lot of people start to trust me and base their worldviews on what I say and what I write. Like in theory, when somebody gets in a small authoritarian country, when someone gains a lot of influence, the government starts watching him and possibly censoring him. And I'm like, can I request a monitor on my writing to see the effect it's having on the culture? Because if it's bad, can someone please tell me? And I promise I'll listen because I want to learn. I'm see that like I'm a young guy. I'm having an effect on people's minds. Would someone like to um, monitor this? Do you see where this is going? Like this is how and then this is an important reason why I like I don't block people. I have this thing where I'm
Yeah, but this is super
like
open. This is like the extremity of openness.
and yes and you can see a gradient between here and the all the opt-in influencers um uh who come to OMI to sort of I just I envision these like open marketing campaigns. Like why I guess that's something I want and I don't see why we can't have it. I think it's a good thing to have this like there's something good that we want to tell everyone. Who's gonna do that right now? Like this is it. Like this is the to me the obviously big gap in society. Who markets public good information? Information is good for the public good.
Well, this isn't
And
new.
why can't
No,
what's that?
this feels like a problem that people think has already been solved.
It has?
I think everybody thinks that they already know.
It's even worse than not
Wait.
having an answer.
Well, I think that's why I don't see the question here as being useful. I agree with you completely, Joshua. This is worse than having not having an answer. I think the people who don't have an answer are like the rare people like you. But I think that most people say, I know who markets public good information. It's my local, whatever my information source is already. I don't think many people are out there searching for this market.
Well, I think that is the underlying effort of this whole thing, right? Is to I like the original thing was how do we set up this sort of information network or information highway? But I think where it really comes down to is that point that you just made. It's like not a lot of people are looking, and that I think is the underlying mechanism that all of this is aimed at changing. That's my
Like
bias showing up, but it's like to get people to get to a culture where people are naturally looking. We don't have to all agree, but we have to be
like I
more
yeah,
epistemologically flexible and open.
yeah. Like I'm sitting here. Here's the thing. I'm sitting here. I have a big audience. I have an audience of whatever size I have. People trust things I say, and I wouldn't it be nice? Like sometimes I just like, why isn't there a queue? Okay, there are a lot of people that are smarter than me. This is always going to be true. People with big audiences, there will always be people smarter than them because of for reasons I can explain, but just trust me on this. Um,
It's
the
very easy for me to
people
trust you on that one because I always think I'm the smartest guy, so like it works naturally.
there you go. I would like I I'm one of those people who would be in this network of influencers who would like there to be a queue. It would be like, hey, here's something that we discovered or that we want to propagate to people that would be useful. And then it could even be like a target. If it's like, hey, you know how they have targeted ads? It's like, hey, I have, something for Arabs or something for whatever it is, whatever your audience is. Like, hey, here's a fraud in this piece of industry, or here's like something that's not great, or here's something that would just be good. So there's information that wants to reach these people, and it's just good. There's no like, it doesn't benefit anyone. Like, it only benefits the receiver. So who's going to pay for that? And the answer is people who care about these people and who love them and who like them, just who are those people. Like an Arab who sees a piece of information, it's like, wait, this would help a lot of my people if I propagated this, and I have an audience. So let me grab that, and and again, everyone has an egregore, like whether it's an audience or whether it's your mom and your brother. Like that's all I want. Okay, it's not. I feel like it's not. I actually feel like after this conversation, I can write like a little one pager because it's very simple. A lot of what I've been doing for the past year is like finding these bugs in culture, bugs in epistemology, bugs in the social protocol, and I think I have a solution. And again, this is very sophisticated. I'm like, deep in there. I'm like, I'm real smart, so I figured it out. Okay, but now I want to test it. Okay, so what do I need? I just literally need one or two people in independent networks. They don't have to be influencers. They just have to have human beings in that group. And I want them to try the test. And if it works on their parents, on their siblings, on their friends, if it doesn't work, give it back to me and I'll fix it. I'll debug it. And then until we get to a point where it works, okay? Hear me out. Final piece. We've done the small test. Now we publish it with the Open Medics Institute. Here's the solution. And now we wait. And now we do the push, the pull. You know this, right? Pull versus push. Spreading culture. Do we talk about this, Ben?
In these terms, no. I have like metaphors in my mind, but probably not what you're thinking.
It's very simple. It's instead of, let's see if I can find this. We say, yeah, you want ideas to spread via pull, um, which means they pull it in their mind versus like you pushing, like you overriding resistance. Um,
I get you. Okay, I understand. Okay, it's actually I must have seen this before because this is similar to the image I had in my mind. Um,
so that's it. So it's like we don't even need to like figure out like how do we get people to do this thing. We just have to describe the thing, and then people, if it's actually good, um, even though you've only tried it on like one Arab family or one little friend circle or a couple of them on the internet, you write it up, and if it's good, then people choose to adopt it because it's good for them, and then it spreads. It's bottom up, and
well,
then it spreads, and it could spread globally. Like the
I don't think that mechanism will work, but maybe that's getting into the nitty gritty about why pull by itself isn't going to be enough to spread. Do you want to go into that? Why I don't think that will work, or is that too tangential?
I'm thinking about well, that's the thing. Does it matter? I think it matters because this is a because it's a part of the cycle here, which is like you figure something out and then you write out about it and then people spread it. Um,
I just don't think pull. So well, when I hear pull versus push, and based on what I read just now, I noticed a couple of things that I think I might not be on the same page, but I might be. So one thing that I noticed is that pull versus push describes two different types of activities, and the way they're presented is as if they have the same intended effect. But the truth is that pull and push can never have the same effect because push always is about um, either speaking to the lowest or the lower standards or the current standards of the person's epistemology, while pull is about augmenting their epistemology. This is true if I'm thinking about it in a memetics context, But if you're saying that it's about any piece of information, then maybe that's not true. To use an example of how it's not true is like if you want to convince somebody that Japanese people are not all ninjas, that's a piece of information, and you can convince them that in a lot of different ways, many of which do not involve augmenting their epistemology. It could be like Japan is a fictional
Mhm.
island, doesn't even
That's
exist.
interesting.
It's like, oh,
I almost think like yeah, like what you say like I would say push is almost like I would say pull isn't necessarily augmenting it's at least like them exercising their epistemology. Um whereas like push would be like you using a bug in their epistemology to like get it past them. Like what or like sort of you well I think I see why you say augmenting because one I guess what you would say this is push, right? Where like you use an authority figure to tell them.
yeah, that's
They
what
trust the authority figure, and that's it.
total
Yeah,
push.
okay. I see. I see. So, and that's why like it works. It's not even necessarily bad. It just doesn't augment. Yeah, I see. I see. Um. Okay. Well, hold on. Okay. So actually, to sort of so I actually agree with you. I'll change my mind. Um. But I would say that it's you're allowed to I actually think push is allowed if you're in that culture. Yeah.
I think push is
It's like where
allowed. I
people,
think push is allowed only because we don't have the time to pull everything. Because augmenting people's epistemology is really hard.
right? But it's like who? Okay, but hear me out, and this is why we get to the base station thing. Who's allowed to? I think okay. Okay. I feel like we need to do another like 3 sessions before we like
Before I'm onboarded,
get.
because it feels just like another good conversation with you, and also with Joshua for the first time. Great, but like does not feel like I'm more onboarded and
I
like
know.
very much so,
I
maybe a
could
little
have
bit
asked more
more.
questions.
Do you know what we're
Let's.
trying to do here?
Well, I
Well, listen.
I feel like I understood this this map, maybe not to this resolution beforehand also,
Yeah.
but I feel like I don't understand the institution's um, self model so well. Like this is like about all
Yeah.
the projects that
Neither do I.
we want to deal with, but it's like so so if I have a solution, like what do I do? Who do I turn to? If I have a problem, I think I don't have a solution. I have a really good framing of a problem. What do I do? If I think I find something interesting in the wild, and I want to share it with other people who I think might be interested, what do I do with that? If I have something
I
that I
mean,
wrote and want critique, like all these kinds of questions, like
I
what's the community here is kind of the question.
I can sort of I can sort of like the next session I can sort of actually answer like because this a lot of this is me saying like here's what I think should exist and that's this like crazy big thing which may not be possible or realistic and like has all these open questions. Okay, separately I could tell you like what is here, what does exist. Okay, which there is when we say open medics there is a thing and there are people and there's this Discord and like what are they doing in there and there's money there's like I don't know if you know this but there's like a 250K investment that was made into epistemic garden for the projects there and it's like what is that what's going on
No, I never heard
there
about this. I'm this sounds like the most interesting thing at this very moment, although it might not be the best rhyme
right
etymology.
so I can explain so that actually is like the more concrete like what is going on and maybe from there we can uh answer what should exist or what should happen next um but
It's
I
kind of like
guess
the roles, like the map of roles. Like this person is working on this. If you have something related to this, this is the person to
right
ask. This person is in charge of this inside the institute. Kind of like if you're walking into like a real company and they're like, here's the engineer, here's the marketing
but
guy, here's this. But here you'd have like funny names because this might not like be based off of the
right
person.
and I think the thing is that like the actual current state is like the problem is like there's a lot of people involved in this thing and a lot of them come to me and they're like how can I help what can I do and I'm like and I can't answer that question for them because it's like I'm still figuring out like what's the big shape of what needs to be done and maybe the real answer is like I'm not the one to answer that and so it's like here's my notes on what's been happening, and
Yeah, it sounds like the
I don't know, like
solution
either
is somebody in the network who you know is really good at organizing people, who is like, this is the person to talk to, tell them what interests you, and here's they can give you the list if it's too much of what other people are doing, and here's where you put your stuff up for the directory, and how you want to communicate, and from there you can figure it out, and this person will check in on you in a little bit if you didn't find anybody, and they can help you make a connection.
right.
This is not like a you job. This is just like somebody has to do this, and they don't have to know everything. They just have to be the kind of
I
people that
I
people can
I
talk to.
I do think there's sort of this like, and in the ORI call today we were talking about a constitution, and I think same sort of thing here. It's like if you just define like the purpose, I think everything can sort of coordinate around that. Because people are like, yeah, I want this purpose, and then we can talk about like how do we get there, and like different people go in like what can I do? Um,
I don't like no. I don't know.
but
It'll die if you do that. I think.
no,
I think you need a person who's like,
be,
I'm stewarding, making sure this survives. I'm the
You got to breathe
heartbeat.
some life into that thing on
Yeah,
a daily basis.
yeah. They have to make sure that people are still fully like, yeah, like the way you should think about it is, if you stop doing your work, will it continue? Like,
yeah, yeah,
and the way you have that is you have to have a community. Communities don't
Unless
die.
it's a virus and it's especially infective, then you can just leave it out on a surface and somebody will come in contact with it and be compelled to
Exactly.
mRNA.
I
To an extent, by
uh
the way, the fact that now me and Joshua that we've met now,
We did
we've
it.
created more of the Open Mex institution now, because now even if you leave the picture, we can still talk about these things. We can still do
right,
research.
right,
That's like a very weak. Like if you're a central node that everybody's passing through, that's bad.
right.
It's better than nothing, but it should be temporary. I think your goal, as much as you've expressed it, is that you want to get people going and doing this thing.
Right. But you see why like I'm like I feel like I do feel like the bottleneck is not enough people uh know have a plan, I guess. And like I feel like my problem is like I know it needs to be done. Like I'll tell you this, like the short story is like I started this thing and I did so by recognizing the problem and the open problem that existed and what needed to be done and what could be done, what was feasible to be done, and I prototyped it and I sort of like why did I like this thing is valuable, clearly valuable. Why was I the one who started it and not the other people who were, competent engineers and who
What
could have
was
started it?
what was easy about starting it for you?
It's because it's because I recognized latent demand. I could like I could see something that everyone wanted, but people didn't know that everyone wanted it.
That doesn't sound like a real reason. 1 second, I'll tell you why I think it.
Well, that was part of what happened.
Yeah, it's part of it. I don't.
when
I
I when I
definitely.
said what was when I said what was easy about it for you, I'm imagining that you doing this. It wasn't like you were pushing yourself really hard to do this thing that seemed really out of
Oh, you're asking
reach.
the personal question.
I
Well,
imagine you just kind of waltzed in. You're like, I guess I'm gonna kind of push on this a little bit.
yeah. I mean, it's because I wanted this thing, and
Hmm.
I have fun prototyping things, and I prototyped it. That's it.
I
Right.
have a different hypothesis that this is like why it was you.
Okay.
I think it's a mix of a bunch of things, but it's because you had a bunch of skills and capacities at a certain point in time, and these are actually much more diffuse amongst other people. For example, you understand epistemology, you're interested in it, you're also a programmer, so you could build your own website.
Yeah.
There might be somebody else who's just like you, they can only have a Substack because they don't know how to make their own website. There might be somebody else who has a lot of these things, they're not so good at writing, they're really good at talking, but they can't write very well.
Yep.
They can't organize very
Yep.
well,
Yep.
or let's say they might not even be exposed to the internet so much because they like. I think there's like a lot of things that focus on you, which is what you need to start it. But I don't think that what you think is lacking in other people is actually what's lacking. I think that once you give them a
Mm.
lot of other things, they'll be able to solve a lot of their own
Well,
problems and then be
I, gue-
productive.
I guess I guess the reason I said that is because to me, I feel like there's an enormous amount of things that could be done that would be very valuable. And like this is one example where I like sort of proved that that was the case. And I have a big list of other things I think like this. And there's a lot of people who seem to be able to execute on those things, but they are not, which is leading me to think that the missing thing is the well, I guess because I would ask them why are they doing this thing that would be really valuable, and they're like, well, nobody would want that. And actually, this was actually the response to this. This is why I'm kind of harping on this. It was on Hacker News, and people were like, "That's crazy. Why would anyone use this thing?" And I'm like, "Oh, people think it's too good to be true. People don't understand. The engineers, the builders, people who can build the things often don't. I mean, they don't build something if they don't think it'll sell or if they don't think it'll be used. It's like they don't know how to market it, I guess,
Suffer from a
how to
lack of
convince people to.
imagination sometimes.
Yeah, and also like risk taking.
Yeah.
Like maybe
Yeah,
I, with AI coding, could have built something like this over the course of a certain amount of time, right? Or a parallel institution. But I would never be able to take that risk of working on that full time for so long with
right. Yeah,
the knowledge that the kind of funding I'm going to get is not that I'm creating like a real, not that I'm not creating a real,
right,
that I'm not creating a consumer product in a typical sense. Like the
right,
funding that you got is not because you sold 1 million copies of your app, right? You're like, I'm going to do this
right,
cool research project. I don't know if you even expected any funding,
right.
and so
Did
that's
not.
why I think that, for example, just connecting many people together will probably create the incentives and the community for a lot more to be done, and a lot of other, and I think a lot of the problems you're facing right now will actually resolve themselves. Like people not publishing enough on this. If I knew that I had an audience of 20 people who were likely to
Yeah.
read what I wrote about this, that was even raw and messy because they valued my ideas, I have a lot of things I could put out like this moment, but I won't.
No, this is honestly, this is, I think honestly, this is it. It's like like, just if you can tell, I want, like, because it's again, it's like I am the central node where all these different people, uh, know that, like, they feel it's important, but they don't feel like anyone else understands it or cares. But if I can convince them to talk to each other instead of talking to me, I think this thing can grow.
I don't,
Yeah.
I don't think I'm abnormal. I don't think you need to convince anybody. You have to offer them the opportunity.
Which means like,
Which means like, here's the
I
date,
guess,
here's the Zoom room, everybody come. Open Megs Institute. Are
well,
you
I mean,
interested? We're gonna do breakout rooms once we get there, and that's like it.
honestly, I mean, have you done an Intellect event thing?
I've heard about them. I was with them in the very beginning, and I never even went to one event because
I think I
it,
went to one.
Yeah. But someone suggested something. I mean, it doesn't have to be this, but yeah, it's like a here's an event. Here's the time. Here's the you have these three questions that we're discussing. Or like here's this essay or two. I mean, that would be nice. It's like here's a couple essays from these
no,
people.
that's not what I'm saying. No,
No?
you're doing like a reading club. That's like secondary. It's first of all, there's an institute that we're founding. I'm getting like a little pushy, so I hope, tell me if I'm like encroaching
It's
or
good.
anything.
Yeah.
But it's like, again, what's exciting for a lot of people, the people who are in this already think about this a bunch, right? This is like the first group, it's core group. It's like people who already think about this, already have a language for this, would love to be valued for by other people who can appreciate their value. They just need contact with other people. They don't need and it has to be about creating this community or this institution even better than a community, as in like we're serious. We're not just a bunch of people geeking out over astrophysics or over philosophy. We're like we want to build things. Not all of us are builders, but we all want to contribute to it in one way or another. Um, some of us are really good builders, but we need ideas from other people. We can understand them and apply them. Some of us are really good at just generating ideas, but we're not so good at building things. So we love giving that to other
Wait,
people who,
but
but just we have to connect. We have
but
to be like a faculty.
well, but do you does it make sense that in order to get curate a high quality like set of people for this purpose, you'd want them like to me the easiest way is like here's a set of open questions that we're all interested in solving, and that's what brings us together. It's like we all want to,
No, it won't
you
work.
know, like
That works for
no?
you because you're already an active researcher. And so for you, you can already inquire into that space. But for somebody who hasn't been given this active research role, right? Like if I saw this kind of community online, we're gonna talk about scissor statements, right? We're gonna dive into those and how they function and how they work and so on. So that's interesting if you're already an active researcher in there. If you're someone who's just kind of like, I'm interested in a lot of things, that's not my specific field, I have a lot of other like I have a lot of other things I can do seriously, or even more seriously. I'm not going to do that. But if you tell me that, hey, you've been like, you're thinking like if you put it out in the open, but you already know these 30 names. You
Yeah.
don't need it. You don't need to
I
filter
see, I
anymore. You
see.
filtered
Just bring
already. You
them
got 30
together.
names. We're
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
we're
yeah.
working
Yeah,
seriously
yeah,
now. It's like yes, I would
yeah, yeah.
because I would feel valued and appreciated and
I
flattered to
see what you're
come.
saying. I was thinking of the curation question, but it's like I already know who the people are.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I I think I want to echo that, which is past a certain point, you have to put things down on paper and say, hey, okay, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. We're going to come back and see where that goes. And I think where you excel and where you've excelled is kind of in this intermediate nebulous space where you can sort of interact with people who are already kind of doing things and nudge them a little bit. And there doesn't have to be pre commitments there. They can just sort of leverage what they've already done or kind of do whatever they want, and you'll kind of lean with that. But I think if you want to congeal uh, consistent, predictable, scalable organization, it has to have some bones.
And Bones here is like both
Yeah.
I feel like a regular cadence of these
But
people.
commitments, like the thing that we're
Yeah,
missing that most normal organizations have is like, hey, you're going to deliver this by this time. Okay, where's the progress on that? Like
right.
there has to be some level of that. And I think a thing that segues into this nicely is the question about funding and distribution of funds, right? Because it's like vibe distribution, doesn't work stably well enough. But having a consistent thing to say, like, okay, this is the criteria. We gave this. How did it go? Okay, we're scaling up, we're scaling down based on those outcomes, based on other needs. Like, I think it needs a little bit more rigidity.
I mean, I think I agree with all of this. Yeah.
There's some of that maybe I think maybe you're describing Joshua as more like an insider view that I don't have.
Probably. Yeah.
Like that's missing commitments. And yeah.
Yeah, for me it's kind of maybe there's like other things people I don't know like who are already interacting in certain ways. For me, it's kind of more just like if I guess if you ask me for a commitment, that would be valuable. Um, but I would also want to know like I guess like the same way you could think of like any research institution. It's like, and then if you do it, we'll give it to a broad audience for you. Or and
Yep.
then like what's the payoff for me? Like it could be financial. It doesn't have to be. Um, and I don't think that you. I think there's easier ways to create these types of commitments and encourage creativity than delegating commitments. It's just about if I talk to somebody else and they're like, "Oh, I want to see what you wrote," that already makes me want to write much better that time and the next time.
Yeah.
But I don't have that person because I only have you, and I could share it with you. But you have 30 people, and who are competing for your attention at least on this specific topic. Forget in your whole life, right?
But yeah, so I mean the solution seems almost clear here. It is connecting those.
People do this with you in a very informal way right now. Like they come up with ideas and they DM you, And what
Yeah,
they're looking for is like, hey, give me some sense of if I do this or is this useful?
yeah.
Like the only thing we're pushing for is to like actually solidify those to say, okay, yeah, you said you were going to go down this route. If you write this article, I'll publish this, or I'll tweet about it. We'll probably get, 10 or 20 people reading it or more, depending on the topic. And then we'll continue to push this out or whatever. But it's like people are already informally trying to elicit this feedback.
Like,
It could be enough for you to be like, what do you think about this idea? And you could be like, oh, talk to person X. They should be your editor on
right,
this.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
and and you
yeah.
trust that the
Which
final
is
product would be good.
Yeah. Well,
and
that
actually this is actually what I sort of do within ORI. Like I like pair people, and then they figure it out, and then I write about what they figured out because they are too smart, but I can like sort of like not dumb it down, but sort of like make it more broadly legible, and then they're writing to an audience of size 5 or less. I have this big audience that's high signal. It's that's
I guess what I'm pushing for is if I'm writing, as part of my engagement with or I want to know that what I'm doing is meaningful to the organization. Like if I'm working for a team in a software company and I'm building something, like I've got a PM breathing down my neck because their bosses, their business people are like, "Oh yeah, we need this. When is it going to be delivered?" If I'm writing for Ori, I don't have that. And to a certain degree, I don't want that. I don't want somebody breathing down my neck about what I'm writing, but I do want some degree of like concern or interest. Like, hey, how's that coming along? Because we got some people who are interested in reading that. And yes, if you pair somebody up with, an editor, reviewer, whatever, that can help. But I imagine inside those groups, the default tendency is going to be kind of lackluster. Like nobody really wants to hold each other
I mean,
accountable.
but I think yeah, they should see how why it matters to the big thing, right?
Yeah, yeah, but there needs to be, I don't know if it's the right word, but there needs to be a sense of like accountability. Like the reason that things move forward in commercial organizations is like somebody's waiting on this, somebody like there's a chain of dependency of people like, hey, are you done with that? Hey, are you done with that? And we don't need to recreate that exactly, but some of that positive signal, that sort of cohesive signal, does need to exist here. And I'm kind of pushing for it. And like, what's the minimal mechanism for something like that?
Yeah, I want to reframe that in my own words, Joshua. I think I understand it well, and I think that you're right. Accountability points at what it usually is, but here it's a little different than accountability. But it might be using the language here. It's still have like a clean information structure about the value of your work to the community. So like you'll actually have clarity that if you publish, who it's helping and how it's helping.
Well, isn't this should be answered by if we have a legible big picture to what open memetics is for, what it's about, and what are open questions. Isn't that what answers
No,
it? Because no, I'm still confused about that.
you
Yeah,
know,
why not?
listen. I'm talking about me, Ben, right? I want to
Yeah.
write something. I want names and faces of people who are going to read it, and I want to know their general modes of interaction. So I know that you will read it. That is a huge point. I'm thinking stuff. Okay, if I write anything on my Substack
Well, but
that's
that's
acknowledging
no.
the title, you'll read it, and
I
and that's a reason for me to do
It's
this
great.
research and figure it out. Joshua
All
will
right,
read
so
it.
let's pretend that's about to happen right now. Okay,
well, well,
I'm going to ask you, what are you going to write on? You're going to tell me. I'm going to say, well, I'm kind of interested in that, but I don't know how it applies. You're going to try to sell me on it. I'll say, okay, I will read that. I'm not sure I'm the right audience, but I'll at least read it. And then, a week from now, you'll have written it and sent it to me. I'll give you my feedback, and you'll be like, okay, well, thanks for reading it. Some of this is helpful, some of this is not. And I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going to self-select out.
So
So the one piece that's missing there is like the pre-commitment that I'm like, okay, I will read this and give you feedback, and you're like, okay, cool. Joshua's going to read this. I'm going to write this knowing at least one person or five or however many you can
but
get,
but
and then
it,
I will follow through with that. And if I don't, you're going to be like, hey, asshole, you said you were going to read this.
but it's well, hold on, because I think there are two different points because it's not just like even if we saw like I think Joshua you're saying is like how to move things forward faster, and I think that's true and this will work.
The
But
mechanism
there's this
is
another piece.
could be
There's another
cultural, it could be structural, but people need to say,
right,
I'm
right.
going to do a thing.
No, I know. I
And then somebody who is not them needs to say, hey, did you do the thing? Or where's that thing that you said you were going to do?
I think on top of because I think like you can let's say you've solved that. I think separately there's still this piece
Sure.
of where is it going because okay, like I think the reason now correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think the reason Ben cares about me reading the thing is is because it goes somewhere um after that. Like it informs my worldview and that informs the worldview of all these people and at some point on this chain like good change happens and so like to
No,
me
that's no. You're too
no
generous in your reading of me.
oh
It's shallower. Um, it's based on that in a certain substratum, and it's the reason I want you to read it and not like some other random dude to read it, even if he has more power than you. So it has to do with that, but it has to do more with if I want to feel, to use the shallowest word, if I want to feel powerful, I'm not going to invest a ton of effort and put a lot of energy into something that doesn't um, maybe say give me power, or at least manifest my power is a good way of saying it. And that manifestation of my power is not that it goes to you and then it spreads on. It's that if I do a good job, I will get more respect from you. And that's what's worthy for me. It's true that the reason I want your respect and not some other guy's respect is because I want to be on the good guys team, and because this field interests me.
well,
But my
so no,
immediate
no it's actually
like incentive is about gaining respect from my peers, who will hold me to a high standard.
well no this is no this is real and this there's almost like a like there's like there's a status hierarchy here of there are people that I want to impress because I learned from them and if I impress them that means it's a signal I'm learning I'm growing I'm doing um yeah like respect from our peers is a positive force for our growth and it feels good because it's good for us in assuming you have pick good peers um so I think that
Yeah, I don't know if I still wouldn't use that framing. The framing is more like um, I want to be an influential person on the world, and the way I measure, one of the ways that I measure that influence is if I have a certain status amongst my peers. And knowing that I have a mechanism that is likely to at least give me a good opportunity, a good bet to do it if I put the effort in, is
okay.
a reason for me to do that. As opposed to throwing it out into the ether, which some people are willing to do, take that risk. You took that risk. But not a lot of people are willing to put a
Right.
lot, don't, they either don't have the energy, the luxury, the resources, they're not
I
going to do
mean
that. But if you put me in a state where I'm like, you can think of it like, one way to think about it is just imagine like, imagine a literature professor.
sure.
Oh yeah, sorry, Joshua.
I just wanted to say again, capitalist businesses have solved this problem. The owners take on the risk by paying money to the employees. So you do what I tell you, I pay you the money, we have settled that risk for you. Now I'm taking that on. If it fails, it fails.
I guess in this case, there's no amount of money that would motivate Ben because he's not doing it.
Right. So what does Ben
Well, you
want?
could pay me money and I would do it. That's not true. No, that's one
Money could help.
negatively.
Okay, okay.
Okay,
So it's partially money,
okay.
partially
Yeah,
other thing.
like money would
Yeah.
be one way to motivate me. Um,
Yeah.
but without money, you could also motivate me without money, which
Yeah. Well,
is
you just described what would motivate you, right?
right. Which is the way to think about. It's kind of like think about I was using the analogy of like literature professors in some university, where if there wasn't a faculty for literature professors and the journals where they would write and share their ideas and compete, and there would be like some sort of status game, and it may be a totally toxic one, but some sort of status game about like having good ideas about texts, like you wouldn't have that
Yeah.
independent literature researcher by themselves. Like that would be like insane. And if you had that guy, he would be crazy. People would be like, this guy is like, and probably that's probably what the first literary critics were
Yeah.
like. They were like, this dude's crazy. He's writing books about books. What is this? Um, but then once you have an institute, it's like, oh, I want to do that. I can do that, but not by myself. Put me in a structure.
Right.
Let me connect with other
Right.
people.
Right. Right.
Well, this is where we get into an interesting argument, which is if you feel like you're part of a structure where other people are engaged, that may be good enough to motivate you to do this work quite extensively for a long amount of time. And then at some point, you may find yourself like me taking a step back and looking at, like, oh, I put in all this work. I felt like I was really productive. I really vibed with my colleagues. And what impact did we collectively have on the world? And that can lead to, some delayed disillusionment. So for me, I personally, and this is why I'm not like 100% trying to make Ori a thing every single day, is like that's the bigger problem that I haven't figured out how to solve in my life. Is like, how do I get to a place where I'm actually satisfied with like the net impact of whatever I'm doing beyond just the daily pay or the daily interactions with people that feel good? And my mind seems to figure out how to sort of sneak in there and tell me like, yeah, that was great, but it's not enough. So I don't think that's a problem for the majority of people, but for the really narcissistic like myself, it's
Oh,
it's gonna it's
that's
gonna
so
get in
funny
the
that you
way.
use the word narcissistic. For me, that sounds like much more lofty than any of my aspirations, because it's just like fun to do. So like no effect, no,
Yeah,
not such a terrible deal. But I think that that's
yeah,
that's true that any serious company needs to do, and they typically try to do it, whatever the organization is, where they celebrate their achievements, and there's like rituals around it. And if you don't have rituals around celebrating your achievements, they go kind of blindsided, and people lose their motivation because they don't recognize them, they don't give them the proper space. But when you celebrate achievements, like that makes it much easier. It's like every year
yeah,
we look at what we did this year. It's like, oh, we did stuff that nobody else would have possibly done if it wasn't us.
totally. Yeah, I think that's really important for me. I think those rituals are important, and yet I get into this epistemological trap of like, yeah, you said it was valuable, but how do you know? And it's like, well,
Uh,
it's like you can sort of slice that infinitely, and that's kind of where I'm stuck in my professional life right now. It's like, how do I know this is even useful? And then like what in myself makes me care, right? Like we're having this conversation about like information networks, and we sort of all implicitly believe, at least to some extent, that improving the quality and connectivity in a particular way of these information networks is going to make life better for people. But that's so sort of lofty and out there that we're kind of like focused on how do we build an organization to even try to answer that question, because we can't do that here in any amount of time that we can spend together between the three of us. So I guess there's an element of like you kind of have to have faith that the line of questioning that the organization that you belong to is doing is in a similar way that like either you'll find an answer or you'll get to a place where you're like, okay, I can't answer this problem because I just the way that my brain works or whatever is never going to be satisfied with this. So it's like there's an element of that here for me. It's like working with Defender. Uh, I have faith in you. That like you think in ways that are similar enough to me that like you're gonna bark down, the right trees, and yet it's different enough that you might be able to do something that I'm not able to do. I think that's important.
I have to run now.
Well,
Um,
well, I think it's a good note to
but
leave it on. I have faith in you, sir.
I have none.
thank you.
I don't believe in faith.
Oh,
That's how I think about
Well,
it.
let's see.
No,
You gotta
I
have
just I
two
was like,
layers. Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, but I can't follow that language. I think it has to do with Okay, you have to go. It's okay. This is a great conversation.
But
I have a lot. I think that I have a lot to learn from you, Joshua. It'll be fun.
yeah, likewise.
but I feel like the takeaway for me, just to give you my thought is the I think there are valuable questions to be answered here, and I think there are. I think a lot of people have answers to some of these, but they're not talking to each other. And I do think the get if we can figure out how to get people talking to each other, a lot will progress a lot faster. Which is like sort of what I was attempting to do with the GitHub, but you know it's a little clunky, and so yeah, I don't know. Maybe like, I had sort of hadn't thought about like I'll just get everyone on a Zoom call and just like
I,
talk to each
I,
other,
I,
you know.
I honestly think that's like the best way because the fact that you invited them, if you say this is selected invitation, people will
This is for
trust
you,
you
yeah,
that
yeah.
you've brought people who they can talk to, and it's not
I could
random.
I could even do like here's why I invited each person because like for each person I sort of like have received a signal from them or like they've sort of answered questions for me or they've like yeah, yeah. Okay,
Like it.
well, great talking to you
Yeah,
guys. Thanks for being here.
thank you
Likewise.
so much. This is really great for me. This
Cheers.
made my night also, and very nice to know you, Joshua.